Hi, welcome to my YouTube and another Pimp Me Shoot series. Today I got a real treat for you. It's Zhukov AK furniture from Magpul. Feast your eyes on this great looking furniture. Now, adapting Zhukov furniture is nothing new. The VZ58 owner has been doing it for the past 3 years. But since the Type 81 is a recent arrival, not many has been done. So let me show you how it's done. So let's begin. Starting from the front and working our way to the back. When you hold this handguard, it feels really comfortable in your hands. It has ribbing for non-slippage and has plenty of room for your flashlight and laser pointer. There's 4 slots on each side for M-lock. There's 5 on the bottom for grips and your bipod. Next is the magazine. This is a Magpul AK magazine. It's been modified to fit the Type 81. You will notice that I did not install the Magpul AK Plus grip, and the reason why is because I decided it was not a good fit. Looking at the shape on the top, I need to come in, and I had to cut, and you can see there is not much meat remaining if I came off in an angle. If I cut off this in an angle, I decided, plus on top of that, you'll notice this front comes straight down, while as the trigger guard actually curves. So I mean, it's a nice looking grip. This is made, this is a grip AK Plus, which basically means it's rubberized. It has a trap door in the bottom, which you can put your cleaning kit inside. But I thought this grip, made from Czech Republic by CZ, was the better fit. All I had to do was hand file the back about 1 minute, and if you'll notice, the front is a perfect curvature. So very minimal work needs to be done to adapt this. Plus, after I adapt this to the Type 81, I can still reuse this in the VZ58. So, and the best part about this grip is the price. I got this for, along with the front handguard, and it has rails on it, the lower and the upper, both has rails. I got the handguard plus the grip for 35 Canadian. And that's real cheap, because that price 35 from Czech Republic is usually just for the grip. So that's another reason why I prefer to use this. Plus, this is a pretty good match to the material used by Magpul. And finally, coming to the best part of the Zhukov furniture is the buttstock. This one folds to the right. It has a big button. You press it and it folds to the right, and it locks like this, and it doesn't hinder the cocking handle. And it also extends by pulling this trigger-like system, this trigger lock. You pull it and it extends 2.5 inches, 5 different positions, as you can see. The back is rubberized for shock absorbing, non-slip. It has 3 positions for the sling. One is a QD for QD one there, and for a 2-point sling system here, and a 1 slot for another sling. So there you have it. Next, I'm going to show you how to actually modify the handguard and the buttstock. So stay tuned. You may have noticed that I did not use the upper handguard of the Zhukov, and I'll tell you why. Because it's a bit short. See? It would leave a gap between this part and the front of the upper handguard. And I thought the length of the upper handguard for the Type 81 is the perfect length. It doesn't leave any gaps behind. This vented handguard I made myself is perfect for this case. And it's even better when I had to cut it, because the barrel clamp was protruding, and as you can see, it was quite easy for me to cut a item I just made it from home. Okay, the first thing you do in the disassembly is to remove the upper handguard. Okay, next thing is to remove 2 hex screws, 1 on each side. And then slide the plastic handguard forward. Oh, before I do that, notice that how close I got the plastic to the cocking handle. I didn't even have to cut it. Push it forward. It's a little tough. There it is. Okay, this is the heat shield. It's designed to radiate heat upwards and not against the plastic handguard. Now the Zhukov comes with 2 barrel clamps. I only use 1, and the reason why I only use 1 is because I decided to reuse the existing screw hole, the main screw hole. So I felt that this is probably far more stable than using 2 barrel clamps, which has a good chance due from the barrel expansion and contracting. There's a good chance that it might loosen up and it might start to twist and turn. This way, there's no chance of the handguard twisting or turning at all. So that's what I did. Having done that, I needed to get replaced with longer screw, 1.5 inch screw. Okay, let's remove this. Okay, I have to be very careful how I remove the heat shield because I use washers. I use 5 washers here at the main hex screw, and for the barrel clamp I used about 16 or 17 washers on either side. Now you're going to ask me why I need washers for. Well, first, you need washer to level the heat shield, and more importantly you need washer to make sure that the heat shield doesn't touch the bottom of the handguard retaining plate. Okay, if you touch this plate, there's a good chance that when you over tighten, you're going to bend this barrel. It's going to bow like this. And when you do that, you're going to have a hard time putting your handguard back, the top handguard back, or you're going to have a hard time turning your sights. When you have a hard time turning your sights, you know you have over tightened and your ferrule, your handguard ferrule, is touching the heat shield. And it shouldn't be touching. There should be 1 millimeter separation between this and the heat shield. Okay, so I'm going to start from the back and tell you what I've done. It was quite simple. I had to use a dremel drum sander. I took off very little material on either side because the trunnion is a little wide, and then I had to make some cutouts for this part, for the handguard rear plate. Goes in like that. Moving forward, nothing's been done from here, and then at this part, the handguard retaining plate is a bit wide, this part right here, so I had to take off 1/16 on either side, about a 1/4 inch wide. There, and of course this cutout is for the swivel, and that's it. That's all you had to do. It's very simple. I didn't have to cut. I've been watching some of the VZ58. Some people had to, and the AK-47, they had to remove the handguard ferrule and the swivel, and I did not want to do that at all. This rifle is unmolested. So that's how you adapt a Zhukov handguard to Type 81. Next is the folding stock. Okay, before I start modifying the Zhukov stock, I want to show you what it looks like first. This is what it looks like. This part goes into the receiver. This button folds. Let's see. Folds the stock. And this triangular piece, there's a screw inside right here. Use an Allen wrench and you tighten this, and as you tighten that, this triangular piece starts to slide down, and as it does that, it tightens itself inside the receiver. Okay, I'm gonna take it off because I need to show you something else. Here's the screw. That's the locking piece. There's the nut that goes in the back. This swivel holder, it comes off like this. And that's a good thing because it means your swivel is hooked onto the metal and not to plastic. And you just drop it in like that. On top there's a hole for a screw. This is for the AK tang. You will not be needing that, so you remove that. Okay, so I've showed you what it looks like. Now, having said that, this part is a bit wide. It measures about, where's my ruler? Here's my ruler. It measures about 32 millimeters wide, while the inside of the receiver of the Type 81 is only 26 millimeters. So you need to remove some material on the left and the right equally. Now that's fairly easy to do. You just hand file it. What you need to do is remove this U shape to this level. This is the U shape. Hand file it down to this level. And over here is even easier. All you need to do is these two pieces, and just go down 2 millimeters. Now, because the trunnion has an angle in it, you will also need to remove a piece of this part. Come off at an angle all the way across. Angle from here okay. Now here's the situation. Because the rear receiver is not quite 90 degrees, if you put this straight in like this, your stock is gonna sit slightly in an angle like this, which is great if you want to use the iron sight. But if you want to use optics, then you would want this stock not to be in an angle. You would want it to be straight like this, so you don't have to use a riser. The disadvantage of having this in an angle is when you fold it. Here, I'll show you what it looks like. When you fold it, the back end is going to interfere with the cocking handle. So therefore, you can't cock or shoot it with the stock folded. That's the disadvantage. It's all up to you whether you are optic user or not. If you're not an optic user, then having this in an angle, just follow the rear receiver is best for you. But if you're an optic user, you might want to compensate for this angle and install this straight across. And the difference between the bottom of the receiver to the top of the receiver is about 1/8 of an inch. So you have to either cut 1/8 off the top or leave a gap at the bottom. That's about 1/8 of an inch, like this. So you can see a slight gap. I'm more tend to go half and half. The reason why, because I don't want to take off too much material from the top side, because this actually does support the hinge, and you don't want to start cutting the hinge too much. So I can't take off 1/8 of an inch. I might be able to take off, going in an angle, up to 1/16 of an inch, and leave a slight gap at the bottom, which is probably not noticeable. And I think that might do the trick. But let me go file it, and then I'll come back. Okay, it took a couple of hours to modify this Zhukov stock to make it fit the Type 81 receiver, and it looks pretty good. And this is straight. This stock is held in by one screw, and it's an hex screw in the back. Unscrew it, and the stock slides back. Okay, you're going to ask, what are these washers for? Well, the stock, when it's in the receiver, is held together with this triangular piece. As you tighten this screw, this wedge starts to move in and down, expanding it. Unfortunately, The downside of this moving down is that it moves this front part up. So your stock tend to dip a bit. Which the positive part about that is that it allows you to use the iron sight. But the negative part of that is when this is dipped this way, you're not going to be able to fire with the stock folded or cock your handle. So what does these washer does that it stops the front part that is inserted into the receiver from moving up. That's what it does. So I have that option. If I just want to use the iron sight, I can just simply take these washer off, and when I tighten it, it's going to start to tend to, this is going to start to dip, and I would be able to use the iron sight. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I've done to this front part to make that fit into the Type 81 receiver. Obviously, I had to take off 3 millimeters on either side and 3 millimeters on this part from here to down, but from here and up I only had to take off 2 millimeters. You see it's wider. Same thing here. I had to take 3 millimeters off this side, but only 2 millimeters on this side. This side is slightly wider than the bottom part. I used, amazingly, I used a razor blade that's very effective, and a drum sander, a Dremel drum sander, and a hand file. I basically shaved it down to the proper width. And this part, if you remember, there's a tang screw that used to be here. I had to cut that off to make that triangular piece to match the triangular piece trunnion in here. So yeah, that's took a couple hours to do that, and basically just this screw and this wedge is enough to hold this in place. But if you wanted additional security to make sure that there's no way this is going to slide off, you can always put a standoff screw in here to make sure this one stays in place and never comes out. So that's how you adapt a Zhukov stock handguard to your Type 81 rifle. Thank you for joining me, and please subscribe.